When I was 12 or 13, I was one of those kids who loved scary movies. Things that went boo, having my adrenaline pumped. I was definitely not one of those kids who gets freaked out easily. I had 2 pet cats at the time who were all sorts of chill. They weren't the typical cats who do creeptastic things like stare into a corner at nothing and run away or anything like that. One night, I woke up at exactly 3 AM with this strong sense of terror for no reason. I hadn't been having any nightmares or anything, so I immediately knew something was off. I looked around and caught up with my senses, and realized both my cats were standing on the end of my bed, staring at the same spot on my floor just out of my sight, hissing, spitting, growling, almost like they were facing a terrible foe. The terror in me skyrocketed as I tried to convince myself that I was just overthinking and nothing could possibly be in my room. I had this horrible feeling that something was watching me. There was a thick presence in the room, and I felt like my sympathetic nervous system was going to short out. It was going so strong. At this point, I hadn't looked over the edge of my bed for fear that I was actually gonna see something. It took about 5 minutes of prep, talk, and rationalization to force myself to look. All this time, both my cats are freaking the heck out and look ready to attack at any second. When I finally peer over the edge of the bed, the floor was empty. There wasn't anything there. The feeling of a presence and the fear was still present, but there wasn't so much as a shadow, shape, nor speck of dust. The cats were still locked onto the same spot on the floor, not taking their eyes off it. I quickly covered my head under the blanket and hoped that the feeling would pass. After another 5 minutes or so, my cat slowly settled down and laid on the end of my feet. It took a good few hours for my mind and nervous system to settle down enough for me to sleep. The whole time, I couldn't help but remember reading somewhere that in some cultures cats were considered guardians of the underworld. This happened to me and my older sister when I was about 14. My dad was getting married in an old historic mansion in my hometown. The Mayo brothers briefly lived in the mansion and worked on elderly patients for the Mayo Clinic there. The city decided to preserve the mansion and keep it decorated historically. There have been long rumors that the mansion is haunted, and it's just old and huge and creepy. The wedding ceremony and reception took place outside, and most guests never even went into the mansion. Only the wedding party, my dad, my stepmom, my sister, my grandmother and I were allowed to go upstairs inside the mansion. We used the bedrooms to change and do our hair and makeup, and my older sister and I got a room with 2 twin beds in that we got ready in. We kept our belongings in that room too. After the ceremony, we put both of our bouquets down on a bed in the room and went downstairs. Later, we wanted a family photo, and the photographer told me and my sister to go get our bouquets. We went upstairs to the bedroom and looked for them, but they were nowhere to be found. We looked in our dad and stepmom's room, downstairs, everywhere. Finally, in a hapless last effort, I dropped to my hands and knees and looked under the twin beds. They were there, one under each bed, lying vertically in line with the beds. We have no idea how they could have gotten there. No one else went upstairs during that time, and the only person we even slightly suspected was my little cousin. But he absolutely denies this to this day, and I know he would have taken credit for it by now. And he didn't even go upstairs. The area was even sectioned off. I still get chills thinking about this. If my sister and dad weren't there as witnesses, I wouldn't even believe my own eyes. Could it have been a paranormal wedding guest? To this day, I can't explain what happened this night. It was roughly 11 PM. I was winding down for the night, and I did my normal nightly routine, which included using the restroom and leaving a light on in the bathroom. I do this so that I can see better when going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I climbed into my bed and prepared to go to sleep, but not even 3 minutes into laying down and closing my eyes, I hear the very clear voice of a woman whisper in my ear, "I'm here." At this point, I shot up out of bed, but before I could do anything else, I heard footsteps walking up to my door and stopping right outside of it. Now, this could have just been a random noise, but what was worse is that I could see the shadow of 2 feet standing just on the other side of my door due to the light coming from the bathroom. At this point, I could barely move from the seated position I was in on my bed. After about 5 minutes, I decided to turn on my TV so that I had some background noise. As the TV was powering on though, I started to hear the sound of someone's breathing coming from under my bed. And I knew it wasn't me, because I could hear it, even when I held my own breath. At this point, I was in absolute fear and could barely move from my bed, and I stayed that way for another 2 or so hours. I don't remember why exactly, but at some point I needed to get out of bed and grab something, but I still occasionally was hearing breathing from under the bed. I felt better getting up, knowing that I had a knife on my bedstand and could defend myself if needed. So I got out of bed and decided to look underneath. I grabbed a flashlight and my knife and looked. To my shock, there was nothing. This cleared up a bit of horror for me that I was feeling, but there were still feet on the other side of the door. So I built up the courage and opened the door. And yet again, there was nothing there. Even after clearing this up, I still didn't sleep that night. To this day, I can't fathom what happened. I don't know how to explain it, if there even is an explanation. If any of you have any idea what this could have been, please let me know.